Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Ramblings of a Grumpy Old Man. So, a lot of things to go over today, and I don't have a lot of time. I've got things that I actually have to do. So, we're going to try and make this pretty quick. So, first off, yesterday it came out that the man running for governor of North Carolina, a Republican gentleman, Mr. Robinson, uh, currently lieutenant governor, has made some remarks in the past, over 10 years ago, that just didn't age well with what he decided to do in life. And I'm not here to talk about those comments because I really don't want to give any more breath to the vile things that he said. Uh, I have relatives that fought in World War II, and for him to compare himself to Hitler was just more than I could stomach. So I don't really want to focus on that. I feel like the more we focus on that, the more divided we come. So my take on it all is I have to think back to a time when I was at a social gathering with a friend of mine. I was actually bartending for his social gathering at his house. And this gentleman happens to be black. And one of his guests came up and said, "Hey, where did you get the white bartender?" And my friend said, "White bartender where?" He's right there standing beside you. He said, "Oh, that's Dixon. He's not white, he's light skinned." So I think that we all need to take a step back when it comes to race and find things that bring us together more than tear us apart. We all need to have more of the attitude of this gentleman and not see color. Let's not demean somebody for the color of their skin. Let's promote the person, and we'd be a better country and we'd be better people. And in the grand scheme of things, isn't that what we all strive to do? Whether or not what your beliefs are, and arguments can be made for both sides, because as I've stated many times that I feel like that racism is ingrained in somebody a lot based off of their background, a lot based off of the area that you were raised. And we need to take a step back and assess those things. You know, growing up in the South where I did, I can remember being in elementary school and being one of only 3 white kids in the class. And I went to a lot of different schools. We moved around a lot. Uh, you know, my mother stated that working for the company that my father worked for was worse than any time she ever spent in the military, that she moved more working for that company than she ever did while they were in the military. So I met a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. And we need to find a common ground. Get out there and meet your friends, meet your neighbors, meet the people down the street. Could be some of the nicest people you ever wanted to meet. You may have more in common than you think. So I encourage everybody, try and meet a stranger a day. I'll tell you what, last night I sat down and watching the movie Patch Adams. And if you've never seen the movie, I suggest you go and watch it. Watch it and think of it in the position being on race. And in the movie, he tries to get something other than a conditional response to a situation from people. And you just have to watch the movie. But it goes to teach that you need to make contact with different people outside of your norm. And you never know what you're going to find. You know, I had a friend that when we first met, we didn't exactly see eye to eye on things. We differed on a lot of opinions. But the more we got to know each other, the more we found that actually we agreed on and brought us together. And we're still friends to this day. I could call on him, and if I needed him, and he'd be here in a minute, and I know that. So that's all that we're going to really say about race. Everybody deserves a shot. Don't turn somebody away based off of the color of their skin, and just try and be friendly. You know, that's what we need right now, are more people being friendly instead of divisive. We've got enough divisiveness in this country. So now I would like to talk about Vice President Harris for a minute. Vice President Harris last night in an online rally with Oprah Winfrey is getting a lot of heat this morning because of a comment that was made on the online rally where she mentioned that she and Tim Walz were gun owners and that if somebody broke into her house, they're getting shot. So I don't understand what all the heat's about. Now, I know there's people out there that are going to say, you know, oh, she's for mandatory gun buybacks. She's coming for your guns. Okay, do a little research. Number one, yes, she was in favor of mandatory assault weapon buybacks. So we've touched on this before. We're gonna dig a little deeper into it today. Um, Mandatory gun buybacks, where you know it's law. You have to turn in your weapons. It's how it's being portrayed in the media. So with that, mandatory gun buybacks, no, I'm not selling you back my guns. Um, but also with that, I think over time you come to realize your mistakes. We've all made mistakes. We've all said things, done things, shown things that in hindsight just doesn't age well. I know I have. Probably most of you have too, if you sit and really think about it. So, Vice President Harris, in a time when killings were rampant, much like they are today, was in favor of mandatory buybacks of assault weapons. Number one, that is the main point, that was for assault weapons, not all weapons. So, what constitutes an assault weapon? I've given this a lot of thought. And basically, the only thing that I can come up with in my brain, what constitutes an assault weapon, is any semi automatic weapon. Now, any semi automatic weapon. Let that sink in. That's a lot of guns. Most guns sold on the market today, unless you are purchasing a revolver or a black powder weapon or a bolt action, most other weapons are all semi automatic. If you figure, I don't know the figure right off the top of my head. We'll look it up, see if we can't get back to you. I'm going to throw a figure out of 400 million guns in the United States. That's more guns than we have people. I own more than one, so I'm one of the outliers. I get it. But you're not going to get rid of all semi automatics. I think in this time that we're in now, with all of the school shootings and mass shootings, people going into churches and retail stores and all of that, I believe in my heart of hearts that we do need some common sense gun laws. I don't believe that everybody needs a gun. I don't believe that everybody is responsible enough to own a gun. There are probably some out there that would say, I'm not responsible enough to own a gun. However, nobody's ever been threatened by me with a gun. Um, so, you know, everybody's going to find bad in everything you say. And that's fine. I'm open to criticism. That's why I'm here. I had to do some serious soul searching before I decided to start this campaign as to whether or not I was willing to open myself up to questions of anything that I have done in my past. And I have and I am willing to answer any questions that anybody has about me. So, common sense gun legislation. It's going to have to come down to magazine capacity. And one can argue that, you know, assault weapons are semi automatics because they'll fire as fast as you can pull the trigger. Hopefully, when I finish this video, I'm going to find a publicly accessed video of some competition revolver shooters that, believe me, fire the revolver quicker than anybody I've ever seen fire a semi automatic handgun. So there's that argument on one side, too. So it boils down to the amount of ammunition that you can fire. So now we talk about magazine capacities and exactly what does that look like? Well, right now, 2 of my handguns hold 13 rounds. In my head, if somebody or some group of people were to want to come into my house in the middle of the night, break in, and take things that didn't belong to them, do I need 13 rounds? Probably not. Most, come in 1, 2, maybe 3 people. So 13 rounds seems like might be a little much. Now there's people out there that are going to argue that what if they come in armed? What if they're shooting back? Believe me when I tell you that most people that break into houses, unless they're coming in there to do you physical harm, which most of the break-ins are not, they're not coming in armed. Their goal is to get in and get out as quick as they can with as much as they can without being caught. So they don't come in expecting to get caught, and they damn sure don't come in expecting to get shot at. I've used it before, and I will continue to use it again because it's a really good quote from Mike Tyson that everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So you walk into a house looking to take something that doesn't belong to you, and you're met on the other side of the door with the barrel of a weapon, I'll almost guarantee you that it doesn't matter if that weapon's loaded or not. You're going to rethink your decision to be where you're not supposed to be. So, in standing with Vice President Harris, if you break in my house, you're going to get shot. Now, I'm not going to empty 13 rounds in you, but I am going to use what it takes to eliminate the threat. Now, is that 1? Is that 5? Is that 13? Believe me when I tell you that most home invasion encounters happen within a distance of 15 feet. If I can't hit you with a round standing 15 feet away from you, if I shoot at you 5 times and can't hit you within 15 feet, I'm saving the last one for myself. Believe me, I'm telling you, most people, even the least trained individuals, can hit a target within 15 feet. You don't need 30 rounds. And while I'm talking about 30 rounds, you don't need AR 15s for home defense. Uh, Number one, it leaves you open. If you're coming around a corner, the barrel's going to come out before you are. So it's going to give your position away. Now, I fully expect pushback on that statement. There are more than enough trained professionals, which I am not, that will probably testify to the fact that no, if you're going around a corner, then you're not going to stick the barrel of the gun around the corner. You're not, you're a trained professional. The layman person is going to come around the corner with the barrel of the butt of that stock on their shoulder, ready to fire. So for those people, I say, okay, you're a trained professional. You know how to clear a space of any threat. Good for you. Maybe maybe you get an exception. I don't know. I think that if we're going to ban assault weapons, then if we're going to enforce magazine capacities, not ban assault weapons, that it needs to be across the board. So, you know, the only people that I think need extended capacity magazines are law enforcement and military, private security. Um, there are threats out there, and I'm not denying that. And there are threats out there that need to be taken care of. Just what, a week ago, we had a guy on a golf course waiting 12 hours, supposedly for the opportunity to assassinate former President Trump. Whether or not that's why he was in wait has yet to be fully determined. Um, I'm not one of these people that think, you know, oh, he waited in the bushes for 12 hours and, you know, he had an ex that liked to play golf and he was waiting for them. I fully believe that if he waited in those bushes for 12 hours and set everything up the way he did, that he was, I feel like there's a pretty good probability that he was there to at least take a shot at him. But that has yet to be proven. So we will go with allegedly for right now. People, we are living in a time where our kids are scared to go to school. And our kids are having to practice mass shooter drills in school. When I went to school, we practiced hurricane and tornado drills. during a tornado, you go out in the hallway, get against the cinder block wall, put a book over your head. Yeah. So if the cinder block wall falls, that book will save your head from getting smashed. Um, so we've done a lot of things in our past that don't make a whole lot of sense. Um, I basically have come to the conclusion that yes, I know the theory was it's a cinder block wall, it's held together with mortar, there's steel inside of it, and it's the safest place because it's going to take more to make that wall fall down than a wooden structure. I understand that. But your knees to your chest, book over your head down, in the late 50s and 60s, they used to practice uh, missile drills where students would get under their desk in case of nuclear missile strikes. So you didn't see it coming. But now we're in a time where people, crazy people, I will go as far as to say crazy people with mental problems are going into these schools and shooting kids. It's the only reason that somebody would go in and shoot a child. They are mentally unstable. They don't need to have access to that weapon in the first place. Now, are there people that own weapons that snap and they've owned weapons for years and they've done their hunting, their target practicing, their sport shooting, whatever, and some major thing happens in their life and they decide that they're just going to go out and take out as many people as they can before they're taken out? Sure, those people exist. Um, what do you do for those people? Well, if it is a spur of the moment, there's probably not much you can do. But we also are living in a time where people notice things and, oh, that's just Joe being Joe. Pulled that name out of the air. So, anybody named Joe that may be watching this, please don't take offense. I'm not calling you out. But is it just Joe being Joe, or did Joe go through something and maybe Joe needs some help? And we have stigmatized getting help in this country. It's a sign of weakness, if you have to ask for help. And in a conversation I was having last night on basically this same topic, people asking for help, I feel like that people that are going through mental issues, they're going through stress in their lives, they're going through day-to-day living, is enough to stress anybody out. Now, day-to-day living stress somebody out enough to go out and shoot 14 people? Probably not. So, how do we stop mass shootings? You don't. Um, too many variables. Too many variables to completely cease mass shootings. Now, not seriously, of course, more in a joking front. There's a comedian, Ron White, that said, I live in Texas, and if you commit a crime in Texas involving a weapon and more than two people see you commit the crime, then you get to the death penalty and you go to the head of the line. In the 80s, we put stiffer penalties on drug dealers selling rock cocaine than drug dealers selling powdered cocaine. Even though most people that partake of cocaine know how to make rock out of powder. Now, yeah, you had the initial onset of having to buy the powder and then turn it into rock, and you could have bought it on the street in rock form and probably been a whole lot cheaper. So maybe if you commit a mass shooting in the United States, and in today's day and age, we have a lot of video. We have a lot of surveillance in the United States. We're not London, of course, but we still, this camera's everywhere. Well, I got a camera sitting on this table. Everybody in this country has a camera in their pocket. So if it happens and it's seen, then the laws, the sentences need to be stricter and quicker. If you're on video committing a mass shooting, then at that moment, all of your appeals should be exhausted. I have you on video pulling that trigger, shooting that child. Your appeals process is done. You go to court, you plead your case as best you can, you're sentenced. That sentence should be carried out quickly. Leaving people in jail for extended periods of time so that they can exhaust their appeals process and stay alive is, well, for a lack of better terms, silly. Now, there are people out there again, that are going to bring up the Central Park Five. These guys were tried and convicted of a heinous crime in Central Park. Now, I use this situation not knowing the full story. I do know that these individuals later were exonerated. They weren't even there. One of them now is city council member in New York, and no greater thing can ever come than somebody who has proved their innocence when they have been tried and convicted of a crime they didn't commit. And for those individuals that happens to, I am very sorry. But if you are found guilty of a mass shooting in this country beyond reasonable doubt, and I have, or we have, because it's not about I, it's about we, have undisputable evidence. Yeah. I've got your cell phone pinging in the school at the time of the shooting. Oh, here come the jets, because from previous videos, y'all know I'm in the flight path. Let's see what they're doing today. Couldn't even see him. Now, for those of you that have not experienced this during one of my videos yet, more than likely here in about 30 seconds to a minute, there's going to be another one come flying over. Probably be a little bit louder. I'm in the flight path out here in the country, and I don't understand it. Never have figured out where they're going or where they're coming from. But it happens from time to time. Here comes the second one. Oh, there he is. You can't see him, but I did. They're moving too, man. So, as I was saying, undisputable evidence that you committed a mass shooting. Got this. We got this kid in Georgia, 14 years old. It's an unfortunate thing. He kills 4 people, wounds a few more. I believe the number was 9. I don't want to leave anybody out. And I don't want to seem disrespectful of not mentioning, but I am not sure of the number of wounded. I am sure of the number that were killed. And thank goodness that the ones that weren't killed, from the last thing I heard, most of them are going to make it. And I think all of them are going to make it now. But unfortunately for this 14-year-old, made a conscious decision to take a weapon to school. Made a conscious decision to use that weapon. People are going to argue whether or not 14 years old is old enough to really consider the ramifications of their decisions. And I would say that as a child, 4 or 5 years old, walking into the kitchen while my mother's cooking dinner, reach up, touch a hot stove, jerk your hand back. I'm sure there are people watching this video that have had that same experience. Now, when you touched that hot stove, you didn't do it again. How does that relate to the situation of the 14-year-old in Georgia and mass shootings by touching a hot stove? He knew that touching that hot stove was bad and it caused pain. Fast forward, you've gone shooting, you have fired a weapon, had to have fired a weapon. He knew how to load and arm the weapon. He was familiar with the weapon. So he knew and had been taught the ramifications of firing said weapon. He has seen the damage on targets. He's seen the damage on deer when he's deer hunting. He knew when he pulled that trigger what was coming out the end of that barrel. So, unfortunately for him, he would qualify for expedient sentencing. No appeals. You did it. I got you on video. I got witnesses. I got cell phone data. You did it. So, no appeals process, expedite carrying out of sentences. What that would do for us is, number one, the biggest thing it would do is, my opinion, it would give future mass shooters pause. Hey, wait a minute. You know, this guy went in, shot up school. They had all this data, had him on video, show him pulling the trigger, and sentenced him, no appeals process, executed him 6 months. Maybe I want to rethink this thought. Now, did I just say that we need to execute a 14-year-old in 6 months? Yeah, I did. As an example, using the example of the 14-year-old shooter in the mass shooting. Do I believe that we need to be executing 14-year-olds? Well, no. I don't think we need to be executing 14-year-olds. What's the alternative? Leave him incarcerated until he becomes 18 and then execute him? If the end result is execution, whether you live in a state where death penalty is a thing or not, incarcerating somebody for incarcerating a 14-year-old when the average life expectancy is almost 80 in the United States now, might even be a little more than that. It's 60 plus years. You're going to keep this individual alive after they have taken 4 lives. So it's a slippery slope when you get to thinking about it, because you don't want to leave the guy incarcerated with no chance of getting out, and he knows he's facing the death penalty. Um, you've been tried and convicted, sentenced to death, but now we have to wait until you reach a certain age so that we, as the rest of the population, don't look like we're cold, heartless individuals that just go around and kill kids. Because now we're in the same boat as this kid that shot up the school. There's an argument. There is definitely an argument for that. There's also an argument for you execute a 14-year-old. It's definitely going to give pause. These guys ain't playing. I truly feel that would do a lot to bring down the temperament of these mass shooters. I know that it'll never happen. I know that even if I were to be elected to Congress, that I would never even propose such a thing, because you can know what needs to happen, and what needs to happen and what can happen are two entirely different things, because we have such divisiveness in this country, and because we have such a wide range of opinions, which is what makes this country great. I can believe that, we need to execute this individual. But I also have to have some humanity about me too, that there's obviously something wrong with this individual, cause them to want to go in and kill 4 people. Assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. The gentleman, John Hinckley Jr., that tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan, they put him in a mental hospital. And he is out now, free to roam the streets. Now, again, that man was crazy. Certifiably locked up for many, many years. Should he still be locked up? One could argue that you knew the consequences of pulling a trigger. You probably should have gotten a death penalty. Consider yourself lucky. Now, I am a supporter of the death penalty if the crime warrants it. So I know that's not an avenue that most people in this day and age are willing to take. So I am making that known right now, that I am a supporter of the death penalty, and I think more states should enact it. and use it because I feel like that if even if you just reserve it for special cases, um, so with that, I think that maybe we're going to wrap this up because, oh, yeah, we're definitely going to wrap this one up. Tomorrow, I think we're going to talk about reproductive rights and where we stand on those. I had hoped to get to that earlier in this segment, but I rambled on. That's why it's called Ramblings of an Old Man. So, till tomorrow, this is me signing off. Remember, register, vote, Dixon for Congress 2026. Thank you.